Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Tinnitist TV. Today I am talking to Kendall Osborne. You know, musical offspring, like all offspring really, come in two basic varieties. People who do their parents proud and people who don't. I'm not going to name any names in the second category. We all know who they are. But for me, the first group includes people like Jakob Dylan, Jennings, Rufus Wainwright, Rosanne Cash, and yes, Kendall Osborne. Now, you might have heard of her father. He's Neil Osborne, the singer-guitarist and frontman of Canadian rock veterans 5440. But if you think her music sounds anything like his, think again. Or better still, just go listen to her latest album, Set the Fire, a superb collection of songs influenced by 60s girl groups, old school soul, Bond themes, and other vintage sounds. And while you're at it, check out her equally ambitious project Inferno, a full-length visual complement to the album, or her recent EP, also titled Inferno, that has revamped versions of some of Set the Fire's tracks. But before you do any of that, watch Kandle and I in our matching t-shirts as we chat about her future plans, the hardships she's had to overcome during her career, playing with her dad in the band A Family Curse, and lots more. Enjoy. Well, first of all, Kendall Osborne, it is a pleasure to meet you. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm stoked.
It's my pleasure. So if I've got this right, you just came off the road doing some dates and you had the EP out. Shouldn't you be somewhere, relaxing on a beach somewhere or taking a well-deserved vacation?
That would be nice. I'm half doing that. I'm actually at my parents' house right now on Gabriel Island. As soon as I got back, I had to come here because I have a side project band with my dad for fun, and we have to shoot some performance videos today. So that's this beautiful studio is unfortunately not mine, but we will be
one day
working all day. Yeah, that's the goal.
So a new Family Curse what is it going to be, an album or what's the deal?
Yeah, we actually made the album several years ago, and I was tied up in contracts and bad legal battles, and just we weren't allowed to release it for the longest time. And then I released my record, so now we finally have a window where we're like, let's do it, let's put it out finally. So we're gonna play dress up in our cowboy costumes today and film some performances and the little like new single out now kind of videos. So get all of that done.
Excellent. I look forward to it. I really have enjoyed that project so far. It must be a lot of fun to work with him when you've both got your own things and you can just kind of find the time and come together like this.
Yeah, well, our whole goal with it was to make it, like, first of all, different than what we both do, but also just really fun. Like, we don't want it to be too serious, and the whole point of it is to not be an extra stress in our lives, but just be kind of goofy. And my dad's always been someone that's like, he's an excellent dad, but he's also kind of like a brother. Like we have a lot of fun, so we play dress up and do matching makeup and like get to dance around and be goofballs together. So it's pretty fun and hilarious.
Well, that is great. So on a more general level though, are you somebody who's just always working?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm always creating, but I'm not as good at business and stuff. And like,
well, I think constantly... you've learned that lesson, right? Yeah, the hard way.
Yeah, and now that I'm like self-managed and technically my own label, it's like sometimes I feel so on top of it. But if you're sick or like on tour, just like I'm like, I can't do both. I can't do both. It's too much. So hard lessons to learn. And I think I'll have to expand my team for the next record because it's a lot to do by yourself.
No kidding. But I mean, so far it seems to be working for you. I mean, it's, you've been at this now for more than 10 years. I just noticed that you're coming up on the 10th anniversary of the release of your debut EP.
That was crazy.
I was going to ask, are you where you expected to be? Or did you even think, when you were 20, 21 making this stuff, gee, at 30, 31, here's what I imagine, my career and my life will be?
Yeah, I mean, I had how do you say that word? Trajectory. Why do I sound weird?
Sure.
I'm not awake enough. Um, I'm nowhere where I thought I would be, but I had every bad thing possible happen to me in my career, every sexist cliche, terrible thing. And I mean, I'm proud that I'm still standing and I'm still at it. But yeah, no, I'm nowhere where I thought I would be. But I mean, in a sense, I was lucky that things took off for me right away. Like my second show ever was like a headline show in Paris. And like I was doing these like huge things and getting amazing publicity. And then, yeah, I just started having very bad things happen. And it's been kind of like a constant recovery battle ever since of like, I'll try another manager, I'll try another label. And then I'd get stuck in a bad deal or that I wouldn't be allowed to tour or release for 4 years. And I'm like, how is this going to help my career? And then a year-long legal battle. And it's just like, it definitely took a huge toll on me and my ambition and my creativity. But I find myself still writing songs and still feeling inspired, and I just can't seem to stop making music. So I remind myself every day of the real reason that I do this, because I've not achieved the success that I thought I would.
Well, but I mean, since you were able to take the reins, it definitely seems like there's been a rapid jump in things. The past couple of years, you've not only been quite productive and doing all these great projects, but I'm also going to presume that they've obviously been far more satisfying for you on a not only a creative level, a personal level, a financial level, just everything, right?
Yeah, and it was kind of funny. Like the first day of lockdown was like the first day I had gotten out of my contract. I was finally free to do what I wanted again and do anything again. And it was the first day we were recording the new album. And I basically said, no, like, I don't care that we're in a pandemic. I'm going to release 2 albums. I'm going to make all these videos. I'm going to do it because I'm finally allowed to do what I want. And a lot of it, yeah, was very empowering and exciting to have full control, but also I'm someone that likes to work as a team. So sometimes, I'd have an idea or something and I'd have no one to bounce it off of, or I was used to like these whole boardroom meetings of like, here's our strategy. And then suddenly it's just me. And I'm like, I don't know what's a good idea or not.
It seems to be, again, so you seem to be doing okay. So I got to ask though, you appear to have really bad timing or really bad karma. What kind of horrible crimes did you commit in a past life that are responsible for this?
I've asked so many psychics that you have no idea.
And what do they tell you?
One actually told me that it was more trauma that I was carrying from past lives where I have been murdered 3 times and I live as a victim. And I was like,
wow.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, I guess.
But I don't know. I mean, I work at it every day to not be like too bitter or upset. And, like obviously a lot of people have had worse things than me happen. And a lot of people have had way better things than me happen. You can't really control life. You can just do your best and try and find your own peace and your own happiness and purpose and go from there.
It does say a lot about the business though, that because I mean, you have been around this business basically your entire life, and you obviously have access to people who have been around this business for a long, long time who could give you, sound advice based on their own experience. You didn't come into this as some completely naive, starstruck, inexperienced person, and that you had all these bad experiences happen to you despite your foreknowledge and access to people. That really, to me, is just kind of a testament to how crappy the music business is on the whole, right?
I absolutely agree. Like, first of all, when I was starting, nobody took me seriously because of my family connections. So
Right.
I moved to Montreal where 5440 isn't, as popular as the rest of the country. And and I made a name for myself on my own, because back in the rest of Canada, I was sending my EP around, and people were like, "Oh, good for you, kiddo," and like not taking me seriously at all, no interest whatsoever. And as soon as I moved to Montreal, I was in a like bidding war with every label, and I'm like, okay.
Did you deliberately pick Montreal because of that?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, because I'm like, I can't move out of the country. I don't have a visa. I'm like, where can I go that's somewhere where I will be taken seriously as an artist in my own right, and be, heard with fresh ears and fresh eyes and everything. And that's why I moved there. But I was also, I'm not gonna lie, I was naive in the way that I was expecting a lot of similar things to what my dad had achieved, and like loyalty, and his band is his family, and
Right.
that was the environment that I grew up in, and that I was expecting to have myself in my career. But being a solo female artist, no, you are in constant danger. So that kind of broke my heart, and was something you can't really be prepared for, because you want to trust people. And when people take interest in your music and your career, and like, I can be pretty gullible, but it's also hard when some important person in Hollywood is telling you that you're the next big thing, and like, why would you not believe them, right? They're like wine and dining you and flying you out, and then next thing you know, that you've been stabbed in the back, and you're like, wait, what? Like, what happened?
So
I rarely see it coming.
Yeah. So, I mean, is that something that, I mean, it's got to, change the way you deal in all interactions in your career now, I guess? Or are you able to sort of compartmentalize it and still, trust some people and not others? Or how does it work for you? Does it make you jaded and cynical or not?
Yeah, but
Okay.
I fight it. Like I'm aware of it. I see it, and I dislike that about myself. So I'm like constantly like, no, no, no. But also, I mean, the great part about being independent, at least for now, is I'm choosing who I work with every day. The musicians I play with, the team that I hired to work PR and do digital marketing. It's like, these are people that I didn't just sign a contract and I'm stuck with, whether they like me or not. Like, these are people that I really like, and they like me, and we want to work together. And just this last tour that I did too was like my favorite lineup of musicians, and I just hired people I love, and we had a great time. And everyone was so supportive. Of course, everyone got COVID. There was a lot of chaos we had to deal with, but with good people, it's okay. No one was dramatic or like freaking out or anything. It was like, okay, well, how do we problem solve this? And you're sick today. Okay, you have a 5-day quarantine, and I'll play this show alone. We'll move this show. We're just like, we'll figure it out.
Well,
So
that's
that part I like.
Yeah, but I mean, that's ends up being the key, isn't it? And I've talked to so many musicians who say, it's one thing to be in a band with somebody, but the most important thing is you have to find somebody that you can be in a van with, that you can sit next to 8 hours a day on the road and not just want to throttle.
Yeah, that is so true. I think it was Dave Genn, guitarist, that told me once a valuable lesson, that he said, one poisonous attitude in a van, everyone will be poisoned. So be careful. First sign of it, like, everyone will start. People are saying like, well, we should get more per diems per day, or why are we sharing hotel rooms? And next thing you know, everyone's going to be thinking that. So you have to be so careful about having good attitudes, positive people, and people that want to be there.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Set the Fire and the Inferno album. I mean, an incredibly ambitious project. Did it start that way? Like, was this sort of from the beginning, I want to, make the album and then have this visual component, or was it something that kind of grew into this out of control behemoth?
It was like, my team kind of laughs at me for this, because I get like a lot of last minute ideas and then like kill myself pulling them off in ridiculous deadlines. So had I thought of this initially, it would have been much better. But I thought of it super late, the Inferno part. And we had a bit of a grant that was meant for like performances and touring that we couldn't use, and we were allowed to use it for something else. And I was like, let's make a visual album. And for some reason, the deadline was 2 weeks away. So we did the whole thing in 2 weeks.
Really? Wow. I
And
mean,
like,
that to me is even more impressive, because it's impressive to look at on its own, but the fact that you really just sort of pulled it together, Mickey Rooney, Judy Garland, let's put on a show style, is all the more impressive.
yeah, and all these components are so new to me. You know, when I started my career, like I would basically show up at video shoots and like, you know, I wouldn't even know what was going on. I'd be put in hair and makeup and there'd be a whole team. I wouldn't even dress myself. And then now I'm styling, I'm like writing these ideas and coming up with the concepts, and I'm producing and I'm casting, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like this is
Yeah, but so much more satisfying at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, it was very ambitious. And when the director and I finished the last shoot, we just looked at each other. We were like, oh, did we just do that?
But you studied filmmaking, right? Didn't you?
No, I went to school for photography. So
photography. Okay, I thought it was,
I'm pretty visual. I'm equally passionate about visual art as I am about music.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, is that something that that must impact or have a factor in your writing? I mean, when you're working on a song, are you already starting to picture what it's going to look like and all that?
Usually, yeah. And I can like see the colors and the story, and like I don't know, in my head it's like there's always a movie playing or something, and I'm like scoring this movie that's in my brain. I'm like, ooh, what would the soundtrack be for this scene of life?
Well, that makes sense. I mean, I don't know a lot of photography. You undoubtedly know a lot more than I do. But who are some photographers that you would see as an influence or have impacted the way you think of that art form?
Oh, there's so many good ones. Maplethorpe is probably
sure
one of my
knows him, but yeah,
one of my biggest and favorite ones. And I don't know, I definitely stalk a lot of young newer photographers on Instagram that I'm just blown away by their work. And I only recently started shooting again myself with film in the last year because I missed it so much. But God, there's a lot of amazing photographers out there. I'm very impressed.
Do you have ambitions to want to move into more film work? Would you like to self-direct your videos, make a movie, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved all parts of it, to be honest. And it's kind of like any opportunity that falls into my lap, I'll say yes to. Like being in Jack White's music video, I'm like, I don't know how to act, and they're like, sure you do. I'm like, all right, cool. Like,
if you're on stage performing, I think you're acting to some degree. I mean, obviously it's not Olivier, but you have to kind of, you have to kind of turn into Kendall, the performer, don't you?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I like a challenge, and I like basically anything in the arts. So yeah, I have some dreams of, I think I'll probably direct a few things for my cousin, who's an amazing singer named Sarah Osborne. And her music is so good. And we've talked about a few video ideas, and I'm like, ooh, maybe I'll make my first debut.
That's right, because you're obviously not busy enough.
Yeah, I know. I can't stop. I'm like a workaholic.
Well, I'm guessing that kind of runs in the family, though, right? No, your dad's not.
No, he's like, he is and he isn't. He's a full creative, so he's constantly like inspired and has ideas. But he's from the era of the business side is completely separate. Yeah. So his manager and everything, they take care of everything for him, and then he plays the shows and he makes the music. And
oh, okay. So he's got it easy.
Yeah, he's like, if I had to do 10% of what you had to do, I'd quit. And I'm like, fair.
Okay. That's a nice compliment from Dad.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was really surprised that Set the Fire was not nominated for 1,000 Juno Awards.
So was I.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I can kind of think of it by way of explaining it is that it would be impossible to figure out what category to put it in, you know?
I think I submitted for adult contemporary, but honestly, I'm not sure if independent artists really stand a chance. And
Yeah, I mean
I was,
that's a tough category, you know, because you're going up against all the major label, you know, and everybody
yeah,
over the age of 25, basically, they kind of lump in there, you know.
yeah, and like it's a jury and voting, right? And if it's just me, like obviously the labels and everyone on the jury and stuff, they vote for their own artists or their friends and stuff. So I kind of forgot about that when I submitted, and I thought at least a video nomination, but I had a little cry
Oh,
and a
but
beer and
I
a
mean, I think
cigarette, and then
you were
went
too
back at
late
it.
for the you were too late, I think, for the visual album, right? Because that came out in November,
Yeah,
so you could make it next year, maybe.
yeah. I don't know if it's even worth
You,
it.
yeah, and who cares, right? It's only you know, you got plenty
Yeah.
of time for awards. Um, so one of the reasons, obviously, I love the album was the vintage sound you've got on there. You know, your love of the '50s, '60s, the girl groups.
Yeah.
I can't think of another artist your age who puts Shirley Bassey down as an influence in their bio. You know, where does this come from? I don't imagine this was music you were necessarily hearing around the house growing up. Where did you find it?
I don't even know. Like in probably later teenage years, I started
Hmm,
getting out of my like 90s alternative phase, not out, but expanding.
right.
And I just always felt like a very deep connection to 50s and 60s music and a lot of jazz. And like I kind of taught myself to sing by learning Billie Holiday songs. And I remember being a kid and I was like, what is that thing she does with her voice? And I'm like, that's
Mhm.
vibrato. That's so cool. And like I just I love that style of music. And I the producer I worked with and we were like, let's just go full retro on this one. Let's do it all vintage gear. Let's like, hints of more modern things, but we wanted to make it an old school record, very few edits or, no tuning or like changing of anything, nothing fake,
Mm.
like a very authentic, real record that sounds alive. And that was the goal anyways.
Oh yeah, no, I loved it. I loved it. Again, it's just so weird to think of you as, I mean, was that your version of teenage rebellion? You know, listening to this music instead of the music your dad was making?
Oh no, I was like deeply obsessed with like Nirvana and Our Lady Peace and stuff.
Sure.
And yeah, I loved classic rock growing up. And yeah, I don't really know when the like 50s, 60s thing happened, but just even like any song in 6/8, I realize I'm obsessed with. And I'm like, what is it about that time signature that just gets me going? And the bop shops come out and I'm like, I don't know, I love it.
Well, you know, I just find it interesting too that growing up in a musical household like this, you must have been exposed to so much stuff. I mean, not only your dad's music and but also all the people he would know and interact with on the road and in the studio, and then all of their influences. I mean, it must have just been fascinating to always have something, you know, new information, new music coming in constantly. Is that kind of an accurate representation of how you grew up, or am I kind of imagining something that was a little more I
I
don't know,
don't
fantasy
really
land than
know.
it was? Hmm?
Like my parents would have like there'd be cool music playing for sure. Like I remember like hearing the Cranberries when I was in kindergarten and being like, zombies cool, like that kind of thing. But like to this day, I don't even know what music my mom likes. I think it's mostly Christmas music. And I think also my dad, having worked a lot on tour and then in studios, like sometimes he just wants silence. So he definitely like my sister and I, we were pretty cliche like 90s kids. We listened to the Spice Girls and the Backstreet Boys and stuff, and then hit our rock and roll phase by like grade 7. And I think a lot of it was discovering on our own. And then it's always been fun to show dad music that we find too, you know. And I got really into Ethiopian jazz a few years ago, and I was like, I made you a playlist. Like,
And did he like it?
oh yeah, he loves it. Ethiopian jazz is incredible.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, no, there's some great
Amazing.
stuff in there. Yeah. What else you been listening to lately?
What have I been listening to? I'm gonna look at my phone. I've been listening to a lot of jazz, which is funny. There's this band, I think they're kind of newish, called Gabriels. Do you know them?
I don't. Like Gabriel, like the name Gabriel?
Yeah, with an E, if that's how it's always spelled, like at the end, and then
Yeah, okay.
S, like they're Gabriels. I
Huh.
think they're like a three-piece, but I've just been blown away by them. Like the greatest music I've heard since I think I discovered Michael Kiwanuka. I'm like, this
Okay.
is something else. And
I will,
they just released a new record. It is so good.
I will check them out. So
And
wait,
then
was
yeah, yeah.
it always going to be music for you, or did you maybe think you were going to do something else?
I thought I was gonna do a lot of other things. It all kind of happened by accident. Like I went to photography school and I thought about maybe getting into like counseling or working with kids or animals or something. And then I made my first EP kind of just to prove to myself that I could. Like I didn't know if I could really sing. I didn't know if I was any good. And I made it just because I wanted to. And I posted it on Facebook and moved to Montreal. And that's how everything kind of happened from there. Like I
And here we
literally just
are. Yeah.
posted it on Facebook and I was like, made an EP. And some cool, credible people I know started sharing it. And they're like, this is really good. And I'm like, really? Actually? And then things kind of took off from there. I'm like, I guess I'm a musician. Who knew? Not
And
me.
did your dad actively encourage or discourage you about music early on, or did he just kind of let you do your thing?
Bit of both. He's always been very supportive, and he thinks I'm very talented, and
I hope so.
yeah, he thinks I'm a great songwriter, great singer, but he's also been like, horrible industry getting worse by the day. And he's
Exactly.
totally right. You know, I'm sure he'd be happier if I was like a doctor or a lawyer or something.
Well, it's not
Maybe
too
I
late to
would
go
be
back to
too.
school. Do they drop hints,
Oh, yeah, they're constantly worried about me. They're like, how are you gonna survive? I'm like, I don't know. Can we not talk about
You
it?
seem to be doing okay. Have you already started thinking about the next album?
Of course.
Well, let's talk about that. Where I know it's early days, but what kind of direction are you sort of leaning toward at this point?
I think I'm going a little darker and a little weirder,
Oh,
but
good.
in a good way. Like I think with every record, there's always been like a little part of me that's trying to please the right people, you know? And I've been told my entire career, like, you got to be more like this, you got to be more like this, you need a song that gets on radio, you need a song like, and I'm just kind of sick of it. And I always do my own thing anyways, but it's in the back of my head, and I'm always aware that like I need a song that goes on radio, and with this last record, like a lot of that didn't happen. Nothing really took off on the radio, and you know, I just want to make music that I'm really excited about. And I'm like a little bit all over the map right now, but I have kind of a vision of combining like my kind of classic retro sound with more like hints of like Massive Attack and Portishead and
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
So
Going even further into the trip hop.
yeah, because like one constant kind of critique I had with Set the Fire was like that it was too on the nose, which was kind of the point, you know. Like I wanted to make a record that you couldn't tell if it was made now or in the 60s. But I think it'd be really cool to kind of combine those sounds and like have like a vintage acoustic guitar through a tape machine with like a really trippy like beat and like beautiful 3-part harmonies, and like just want every song to kind of give you chills is what I'm going for.
And do you think lyrically you might be in a slightly better place this time around, or will there still be enough crap going on in your life that will have plenty of darkness and woe?
I think it'll probably be a bit darker. Set the Fire was kind of me trying to be optimistic, believe it or not.
All right. Well, that's yeah. And have you come up with another flame related title yet for this one?
No, I'm worried I might be out of them. I'm like, what's left? Did I use them all?
Oh, I'm sure there are hundreds you could do. You've been at this for a while now. So one of the things that I find when I talk to artists who started in their 20s and then they're in their 30s is that it's kind of a weird time, because all the people you grew up with and hung out with in your 20s when you got started, they now have adult lives. You know what I mean? They have careers and they are married and they have kids and houses and mortgages. And
What's
you're
with
still,
that?
yeah, well, and you're still kind of in the same place. How does that impact, the way you write? Does that influence you?
Not really the way I write, but I mean, that's kind of been happening for quite some time. Like one of my best friends got married when we were 25. And when she told me, I just burst out laughing because I thought it was a joke. And I was like, wait, really? Like, I thought we were kids, and yeah, everyone with a normal job is starting to own homes and get married and have families. And like part of me wants it. And another big part of me is terrified by it. And also, I don't know how they do it. Like, honestly, most people I know, it's a big help from their parents, which is lucky, like to actually own something in this day and age. Not many people can do it unless they work in tech or they have an inheritance. It's not going to happen. So I'm like, I'll probably never own anything.
Well,
What can you do?
I mean, again, you look like, you're in a place that's doing pretty well there. Dad's doing okay. He'll help you out. Okay. I don't know how much the mortgage is on that studio, but whatever. We'll let that go. So is it going to be a summer of touring for you? Is that the plan, or are you going to be writing, recording, or or a little of both, or do you know?
Little of both. Few shows here and there. Got one with July Talk next month. It's gonna be fun because I love playing with them. And then Family Curse is gonna do a few shows, but not too much. I again, with the independent thing, like it was really hard to get on top of everything. And everyone I know that's doing a lot of touring this summer, it's mostly rescheduled things from 2 years ago, and very competitive, and all the agents are trying to recover from their total loss of work of the last couple of years. So it's busy out there and it's quite oversaturated. So any offer I get, I pretty much say yes to, but I'm also aware that everyone's fighting to play right now, and I'm like, oh, I can only do what I can do.
I kind of suspect too that, I mean, based on, again, thinking about Set the Fire and all the visual components with the album, that you could put on a really fabulous, integrated multimedia show if you had all the time and the money. Is that the goal someday?
Yes, that would be an absolute dream. But yeah, so far it's like barely make even on tours.
Or yeah, well, you gotta start somewhere.
I can't do anything visual or anything too creative. I can just hope that I can hire the band and cover the hotels and the transportation without going too into poverty.
So we started off talking about 10 years ago and where you thought you were going to be. Let's talk 10 years from now.
Oh,
where would you like to be? What would you, what's Kandle 2032 look like,
Hopefully just as young and radiant. I mean, I hope that with the, next few records, I can keep trying to make a name for myself. I still feel like I'm having to prove myself, which is annoying, but I'm also aware of what I've been through and why. But I'd love to get to a kind of just like a stable place where I can consistently make records and not have to panic about how to pay for them, and do nice tours and expand my fan base, and just have a little more stability. But I'm obviously never going to stop at this point. I have too many ideas and songs and things, and always other creative projects on the go. I want to get more into producing, and I think I'm going to release a book of drawings this year, and I just too many
Wow.
ideas. So we'll see how many of them actually happen.
Well, better too many ideas than not enough.
That's true. Very true.